we're live. We are live. Welcome back to the New Media Show, everyone. Rob, how are you?
I'm fine, Todd. I'm good. I'm good.
Well, that's
Lots of lots of stuff to talk about today, all over the map.
yeah, it is all over the map, and considering that the summer months are usually the slow months where not a lot of stuff is being announced, especially with majority of Europe on vacation. Definitely a lot of things being talked about in the podcasting space. So
Yeah.
I, c- you know, I'll kind of talk with my headliner, and then we can get into your headliner. But so, what is an independent podcast, Rob?
I don't know that I can define it anymore. I think everybody has a different perspective on it. It's almost like the same conversation as talking about, well, what's a podcast? Everybody's got a different opinion.
Yeah, you know, uh,
So, I don't know what an independent podcast is now. So, does that mean if you're not independent, that means that you're under contract by one of these big platforms like Spotify or something? Does that make you a non-independent podcast, or what? I I I can't even define it now.
yeah,
It's so convoluted.
because the Joe Budden story has made some headlines this week a couple of times with making over 1 million a month in on Patreon, and then whatever else advertising makes, and something like 2.2 or something like that he's making a month. And I think the reason people maybe joke considers himself independent is he was under the umbrella of Spotify for a while, and then I guess he didn't get enough money, and they walked away from that, and they've been able to survive. Um, and I think it needs to be remembered that if he's independent, well, let's call him independent, and he's got a pretty big team. But there's a lot of what I would consider independent podcasts that have taken the time and have built their shows and have done very well and are feeding their families with the income from their podcast. And um, it's not as many as people would want, but I think proportionally for television, it probably is a higher percentage of people that work in the podcasting industry that are feeding their families than those that maybe work in TV and movies. I don't know. They're two different industries, but I do think that if you have a strategy and if you have good content, that's number one, and you build an audience, you can earn a
Yeah.
significant income. But with the dual strategy, you can do value for value, which I would kind of consider to be Patreon support, where people are making contributions to the show. The only thing that Joe may want to try is, set some variable support limits because um, a Patreon model is locked to a fixed cost, and maybe people would be willing to donate more in some instances, and they'd be able to do better. But I think he's doing pretty good with over $1 million in Patreon revenue. So
Yeah, I was just thinking more about this term independent podcast, and I think it. I mean, I can take a stab at what I think it means in this new era, and my thought is that it's a any show that's under its own kind of content royalty and licensing. It hasn't offered that to a platform.
right,
So, like, just 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 to use an example, to some degree, the contract that I had with StreamYard to do a podcast on their platform and on their channels, I would consider that to be kind of not an independent show.
right.
That's where I've given my rights over to a company
Hmm.
to own the rights to my show. I would consider probably Joe Rogan to be kind of not an independent podcast.
Yep. Although
And
he will probably defend that because he says if there's no
well,
editorial control on him,
yeah, he's independent of spirit is what
right?
I would call
Yeah,
Joe.
yeah, yeah.
So, right. So he's got that that piece to. But I think this model that an independent podcaster is like this solo creator that's the only one doing the show, and it isn't a big prosperous business. So even putting Joe Budden in this bucket is probably we're looking at it very simplistically. You know, I'm sure he has like maybe a team of 15 people working with him, or but there are examples of folks like Mark Maron or even Joe Rogan to some degree that has a small team, but they do have teams, right? It's
Yeah.
this idea that we've had for many years that an independent podcaster was a solo creator um, is true.
Hmm.
I'm just not sure that that's where the big money is now.
Well, yes, but on the other hand, let's just take my little tech show. It's
Yes.
definitely independent, and
Yeah. Right.
it
And you're a
raised
solo creator.
right.
Right.
So it also raises enough revenue to, at times, again, it can be like this. At
I think we
times
have to
it
be careful of trying to define independent
yeah.
podcasting as as people that are making
Oh,
aren't
that's true.
making
Oh,
any
yeah, yeah,
money
yeah, yeah.
or making a little bit of money
Well, I
or
guess
making I mean, what's the bucket, right?
yeah, yeah, I guess my point was that it is possible to make a full-time living as a
Right.
independent podcaster.
Yeah.
You may not
Right.
choose to do that, but it is possible. And I think
And you may
there's
have a team around your show, but having a team and maybe being a part of a network doesn't make you not an independent
right,
podcaster.
right.
And I
So,
think that's the other piece here that let's say you did a deal with a podcast network,
right.
right? And you're part of a podcast network, but you own your content. All you're doing is you've got into an ad sales
Mhm.
relationship or a promotional
Yep.
relationship. But people will oftentimes consider like a Button to if he's a part of someone else's network, he's not independent anymore. And
Right.
that used to be what this discussion was about was if you were a part of some other business with your show, then you weren't an independent podcaster anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's fair.
I think it is, but at the same time, I think there is some stigmatism. Maybe it's not a stigmatism. Maybe that's the wrong
Yeah, but
word.
with who cares anymore?
Yeah, maybe no one cares.
I'm not
But
sure anybody really
yeah,
cares.
potentially. But uh,
Yeah.
the point is, I think it's possible. I think it's the key to remember is, and this is a thing where everyone hopes that their shows do
What's
well enough.
possible?
Yeah, what is
What's
possible?
possible here?
Yeah, yeah. And
Well,
if you,
no, I mean, what's your definition of what's possible with being non-independent or independent?
if you're independent, okay, let's say it runs a spectrum. If
Hmm.
it, and I don't think a show that has representation is not independent because there's lots of shows out there that have
Yeah,
uh, ad
ad reps.
representation and they
Right.
are completely independent.
Yeah.
But I think the point goes back, and we often poo poo and the advertising piece. But I think that there's a segment of shows that are doing very very well, um, as in what I would term in my mind independent. Uh,
Hmm.
so my camera's going in
Yeah,
and out of focus. Go ahead.
I would say that very few shows I would consider not to be independent.
Oh well, maybe true. Well,
I mean, if you think about,
if it's the New York Times, that's not independent. So
yeah, that's a corporate produced
right, right,
program
right.
that's part of a bigger media
Yeah,
company, right?
yeah.
But, it's a fine line of a difference between that and let's say the Evergreen Podcast Network,
Hmm.
you know, that you've done a deal with to help you out with the cross promotion and the marketing and the ad sales and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I guess the difference in my mind would be does the media company that it's hosted on, does it own the content?
Right.
Or does the creator own the content? I
Yeah.
think that's probably a distinction that makes more sense in this new modern era of podcasting.
One thing's for sure is with the cut of funding to NPR, they're going to be finding out what it's like to be independent.
Yeah, but Todd, that
Yeah.
funding, that corporate
Yeah.
funding of NPR was only 1% of their budget.
What?
Yep. Look it up.
So that 1.1 they're $100 billion organization?
No, no.
Because they thought
No.
I thought they got 1.1 billion or something was cut.
Well, um, PBS gets, I think, up either 5 or 10% of their budget.
Oh,
PBS does,
hmm.
but the NPR cutout is only 1% of the NPR's budget.
Boy, for you watch anything being talked about, it's hell and
And it's the end
fury.
of the world.
It's the end of the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but if you do a search or you look it up, how much does, and there's kind of cutouts there too, to some degree, because some of the federal funding goes directly to some of the public radio stations.
mm,
So that number may be a little higher based on government funding going to individual, NPR stations.
yeah.
But the NPR corporate dollars is only 1% of their corporate budget.
Boy, to hear about they're going to have cuts and the world is falling and radio stations are going to
Of
close
course, they're going
down
to do
and
that, Todd. Yeah, it's like make hay out of nothing, right?
yeah,
So, I mean, that's just a little bit up on their normal fundraising that they do.
yeah.
But I would say it's a bigger impact on probably the local affiliate NPR stations, and then also with PBS.
Hmm.
That's a
So
bigger impact over there.
this IEB meeting that you went to, was this an open forum thing or was it an
Had
invite only or?
Yeah, it had really nothing to do directly with IAB. So it
Oh,
was a group of people that got together on a group
oh,
webinar kind of a.
okay. So this was it nothing that was publicly announced. It was just a bunch of people that got in on a call.
No, it was publicly announced. It's
Oh,
just that it wasn't an IEB event.
it wasn't an IEB event.
Right.
And from that event, there's this talk about unifying
Yeah.
all of the
Well,
metrics under one.
the person that's in charge of the IEB metrics,
Mm-hmm.
overall metrics, was part of the call.
Okay.
So she was talking about as the group was talking about, and I raised this topic too, that the whole uh, digital media landscape is kind of in disarray right now because we've got all these different companies and all these different mediums that all have a different way of counting,
Yeah.
right? So if you're an ad buyer and you want to buy a 360 campaign across video, audio, radio, streaming, all that stuff, you have to navigate a confusing landscape
Oh, it's
of metrics,
it
right?
is a insertion order from hell.
Yeah, and so that's what they're trying to solve is they're trying to kind of bring it together and say, well, let's look at audience from a consolidated perspective, and it's leaning towards this attention type of orientation, towards it not so much, so driven by downloads or plays or
But an
views or all this stuff.
but an attention metric is still a number in the end.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, right. So as you look at each of those downloads, plays, views, what's the commonality across all those that can be brought into one number?
So they're saying that if they listen or watch longer, that is a metric that's more important than AKA a download or play. A lot of people have said that for a long time.
Yeah, right. And if you look at what YouTube is doing, YouTube is definitely leaning on the algorithm
Mm,
towards play duration, and how long people are listening, and that's been involved in podcasting for a
yeah,
long time. I mean, you guys even have it on your
yeah.
platform. So it's just a matter of kind of bringing all these concepts together, so it's simpler for, I guess, brands and advertisers to buy across this digital ecosystem, which is very confusing right now.
I think that getting to a unified model will be probably one of the most challenging things they'll ever try to attempt.
Yeah,
Be,
well,
because
nobody said it was easy, Todd.
in the
Right?
end,
Right.
you still have companies that are going to want to know. all right, what was the total play count? What was the total download count? What was the um, what was the retention span?
Right.
They're gonna did my ad get listened to? All these questions are still going to come up, and they can try to set
Yeah,
a
that's
metric. It look at the podcasting metric. We've had it for how long, and and still, people are bitching about it. So, um,
well, this plays into what the advertiser wants. The advertiser wants to know when their ad got
yeah,
listened to and how many people listened to it, so that can drive the CPMs,
right,
right? So it's always been this model that everybody's been under this perception that, every podcast episode that goes out to it gets listened to 85% of,
right, right, right.
of its duration, right? That may or may not be the case on an individual
Well,
over over episode
and
number,
and
but
usually when there's confusion, it's an attempt by the advertisers to drive CPMs
right.
down.
Of course,
you
right.
know, they don't.
It's in their financial interest to drive the numbers down.
Yeah, they want to pay for the attention. They don't want to pay for the
Yeah.
episode that has been downloaded and has sit on my mobile device for 2 months and I haven't listened to it.
That's why I'm a little bit surprised that the advertisers even pay for post rolls these days. So
Well, I'm talking
so I
about
would say,
I'm talking about any type of if I've got my phone and there's some episodes from some shows that I only listen to when I'm on an airplane.
yeah,
I don't listen to them on a normal basis, so it may go
yeah.
months before I listen to some shows.
And it depends on the metrics platform, whether or not those plays are even going to be counted
Well,
because they're already downloaded.
they are in the podcasting space. Traditionally, they're paid for now. You
Well,
know,
if it's downloaded,
yeah,
that metric has already been counted,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So
It was a
yeah, so
one.
if you never listen to it
Yeah,
or you listen to it, it makes no difference.
right.
And that's part of the
Yeah,
crux of the issue is that the industry is smart to that stuff now.
and
It's
they
not
they
like the
just
early days of podcasting.
they just well in the early days we had the same questions asked in the early days. Oh, you've got
Oh
this
yeah.
great medium, and wow, you can take the content with. This is before the iPhone. Oh, you can take the content with you, and wow, did they really? Do you know if they really listened? That was asked in 2005.
Yeah.
So
And
that question's still out there. So it's
and and my answer to that was is that we don't really know.
yeah, we don't
Um,
know.
but the
you know,
numbers say 85% of the time
yeah.
it gets listened to all the way, right?
Well, yeah, it depends on the show.
As we both recall, Norm from Podcast One was the one that played that up, didn't they?
Yeah,
Didn't he?
yeah. I can
That's what
think.
his filter was on his metrics
Well,
was that.
one thing's for sure, and this is what I really think about most of the shows that are actually on YouTube today. Um, they're not being listened to. They're very much segmented because they're all putting out reels. There's no reason to listen to an entire episode now. Someone made a comment I saw on Facebook that the Hunter Biden interview just happened, and of course, it was just everyone went
Sliced and
crazy
diced.
over all the F words. But apparently, that was a 3 hour interview. You wouldn't know that from the discussions that have happened, within the media. You would have thought that was a 3 minute take, and it wasn't. It was a 3 hour interview, and someone. It just goes back to when President Trump was on Rogan. It was a 3 hour interview, but they were just taking the slices. And someone said they listened to the entire interview with Hunter and said, "Wow, there was some stuff in there that that probably would have been good for the entire public to hear, but it was never stuff wasn't listened to because who's got if you don't like Hunter Biden to begin with, there's
Yeah.
very few people that will listen for 3 hours, so you get the sound
Right.
bites. So this is the issue too, is the average now if that podcaster or that YouTuber had ads in that content, he didn't get paid for a single one of those because people just took the sound bites.
Well, then you're reliant on the Shorts platform to to
I
monetize, but
guess. Yeah.
there's not as much monetization opportunity in Shorts.
Yeah. So I think
So,
it's, in the end, here's the simple fact about advertising and creators. They just get screwed. Uh, and I've been talking to a lot of audiobook people, and boy, oh boy, they're the ones that really get raked over the coals. They they earn almost nothing. 75% is the take that Amazon takes on an audiobook, which is pretty incredible if you think about the revenue take from that.
yeah,
So
yeah,
anyway, what else?
yeah.
What's our next topic we should move into?
Mm, well, I thought it was interesting. I mean, if we want to, we can talk about the audio boom thing, but I'm not sure that's a
Yeah,
big story or anything.
no,
But
not necessarily. The Spanish thing is a little bit interesting, where they basically are saying, "Hey, we don't want this podcast distributed on lots and
oh yeah,
lots of different apps." So
that brought back a lot of memories for me back to the early years of podcasting.
yeah,
I had to sign a a royalty contract or a rights contract with NPR to have NPR podcasts on the platform I was working on at Melodio. I got this big,
really.
like 25-page rights contract with NPR back then to have their NPR podcasts in our mobile phone app back in 2005.
Oh, how times have changed, huh?
Yeah, so there was a lot of and yeah, I keep hearing that the screaming that's going on around this is that the people that are behind that Spanish public broadcaster station don't really understand how podcasting works.
Well, I think that's
And
pretty obvious.
yeah, but then again, maybe it's a reaction because of the threat that they feel from podcasting too.
Well, that's potentially true.
Maybe they don't want to change their model to as much as
Yeah,
is happening, and
maybe
they're
they're
pushing
trying
back
to
on it.
holding on to their broadcast tower as long as they
Yeah,
can, but
yeah, yeah.
yeah, you never know the mindset. I would have loved to have been you know, sitting in a chair and being able to understand the conversation that surrounded that, and wondered if anybody within the company pushed back, and then, someone that just doesn't get it said, "No, this is what we're going to do." So what it sounded,
Some yeah, some rights uh, lawyer is putting their foot down.
or some bigwig in the company, or someone that's
Yeah,
older that, you know, still, think that independent creators are not the way forward. So I don't know. I'm
right.
just I'm just
Or
speculating here.
making your content available for free on platforms.
Yeah.
Now it does beg the question: are these podcasts or all these shows monetized,
Mm-hmm.
or is this a pushback because they haven't monetized their podcasts?
True.
I
S-
I don't know.
So Rob, let me. You and I are getting a little longer in the tooth. I have more gray hair than dark hair on top of my head. So I actually still have hair if I don't shave it, but when it does come in, it's pretty white. You've got some gray going on there.
Sure.
So 20 years ago, when we started podcasting, did you have any gray then?
I don't believe so, Todd.
Yeah, I don't think
I'm not sure that podcasting caused it. I think it's just
Yeah, I know. But my point
time.
is, podcasting now being around for 20 years, we started with audiences that were in their
Mm,
30s and 40s. And matter of fact, my prime demographic of my show has always been 35 plus
yeah,
for my podcast. So that audience has been with me for 25 years, and 35 turns to 55,
yeah.
and 40 turns to 60, and 45 turns to 65, and 50 turns to 70. So this research out of Edison, I think we have just this audience has moved with us from the
Right.
beginning,
Yeah.
and
Just like we have, Todd.
that's right. And this grows is not a sharply grows. We have moved people out of the, that peak
The
categories.
younger
Yeah,
demographic into the older
yeah, because
demographic.
if
Yeah.
you think about it, in the early days, the peak was around, and let me hold up my fingers here. The peak was around, 30, probably 27 to 40. That was where the peak was, and that
Right.
peak has just moved.
Yeah.
That demographic
Well, and
is
it's a smaller number because back in that time frame, there wasn't as many people listening to podcasts. So
right.
now we've shifted into an era where there's a lot more people
Yeah.
listening to podcasts. So
So that
that older group that's been moving through is not as big as the
yeah.
one that's behind it.
And the 18 to 35 crowd now is massive. And, in
Yeah.
20 years, they'll be the ones that are, wow, the whole 55 and above crowd is growing. So to me, this seems just like a natural thing that has happened because of the age of the industry. The audience have aged with us. I wish
Yeah.
there was some magic formula where I could stop having birthdays.
Yeah. Well, I'm already starting to count backwards, Todd. So
Well, I
so I got
stopped having
my
birthdays at 18. I just have anniversaries. So,
yeah, I got my biological age back. It's a different marker that you can
oh,
get with your blood test than your chronological age.
oh, you're trying to move your
Um,
biological age back, trying to get
well,
more out of it.
I got my markers back and it said I was 11 years younger than my chronological age.
Well, it's too bad our looks don't follow those markers.
Well, maybe it has. I don't know.
Well, I'm not looking any younger. That number keeps, you know, in my
So
s-
my
in.
goal now is for every year, I get older, I have to work on my health to make myself 2
Oh,
years younger.
yeah.
So in 20 years, by the time I'm chronologically in my 80s, I'll be in my 60s. So
Well, I'm definitely 20 pounds down, so I'm a couple months into this now, and I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but and this is not podcast related at all, but any of you out there with type 2 diabetes, which I have, if your healthcare system will not pay for a Dexcom monitoring system, a patch, and
mhm,
you hate poking, this is the best $100 I spend every month now. My insurance
mhm.
doesn't allow it. The Veterans Administration doesn't give those Dexcom kits to people with type 2, only with people with type 1. And what I thought I was doing well for years. And then when I started wearing that Stelo, it's called
Mhm.
STELO,
I'm
um,
familiar with them.
I,
Yeah.
amazing difference and just a few minor tweaks
Your diet.
to my diet, and my sugar's down around 80, 90. Very rarely gets up in the high hundreds. And
Though your most important marker is your insulin marker,
yeah,
which most doctors don't even take that test.
yeah. But again, knowing where the blood glucose level is just as important, and that is attributed partly to the weight loss. So I'm
Yeah.
convinced just on 2 months of wearing this, I'm
Mhm.
absolutely unequivocally convinced that if they did that for every person, or if Apple got the glucose working in the phone, that that alone, just that self-awareness would change, people's habits, because I hated pricking. I hated it. I hated testing, and it
Mhm.
made no sense to me because I was on a specific medical regimen, so poking every day to me was like, okay, this is how good or so yeah. I Anyway, it's completely off topic, but it'll be the best $100 you ever will spend for
Though
awareness.
a really good marker to get, with your blood tests, and if you can get your doctor to do this for you is your A1C.
Oh, of course.
Um,
Yeah.
that's your 3-month,
Yeah.
um, glucose levels.
Yeah. So what I do is I get an A1C every 6 months. So I know where my A1C is. And what the A1C is basically that's you do that 12-hour fasting, and it basically, and you can screw up that A1C test. Um, don't go eat seafood the 2 or 3 or 4 days before an A1C test.
Yeah.
If it's part of your normal diet, then don't change it. But if you load up on shellfish and shrimp and stuff before an A1C test, you're going to have an elevated A1C, just
Yeah.
because of those products drive A1C up for
Mhm.
a longer period than food will. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That resting A1C is the key. And that's, that's
Yeah.
how they determine if you're pre-diabetic. 5.7, 5.8, 5.9, 6.1.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, this is
Yeah.
a great device.
It's a good little kind
Yeah.
of tip to, because a
So,
lot of people
go
are
ahead.
battling this because of the type of food that's in
The
in
pro-
America.
the processed food
Um,
is just absolutely
Sugar
horrible.
and
I
carbohydrates,
I
all that stuff. You got to cut it.
I eat no processed food here when I'm here. Zero. There's
That's
everything
good.
is comes from raw ingredients. Now, you got
That's
to be
good.
careful if you're in a restaurant. They're throwing in soy
Oh,
sauce and oil and
oil, and
all this stuff, and MSG and loads of salt. That is a
yeah,
thing. But my sugar's always good when I'm here
that's good.
versus in America. Go eat McDonald's one time and having one of these devices and watch your sugar go straight through the roof. It's the
Yeah, or just eating any bread.
bread.
Um,
Yeah.
we'll do it rice, potatoes.
Even the supposed quote unquote good breads are still shit. So anyway,
Doesn't
let's get
make
back to
any difference at
yeah.
all. You're gonna spike your glucose with
Yeah.
any bread. I
Yeah.
don't care who. I don't
Yeah.
care what it is. If it has
Yeah.
wheat in it,
Yeah.
I'm spiking it.
If it's got
Yeah.
the most worst taste in the world, this is the most
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Even sourdough, which people have said, oh, that's better. It'll still spike your
Yeah,
glucose.
yeah.
But it
S-
does help to have fiber before you have carbs,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you can get the fiber in your body before the carbs. But that's why in most meals people eat their salad first and then they have their full meal, right?
Right.
And it does protect your blood sugar a little bit if you
So
still don't want to load up.
there's a lot of stuff going on with Apple Podcasts that's kind of behind the scenes and that people
Oh,
maybe
well, that's good to hear because I'm not hearing about it. Yeah.
well, it's a combination of stuff. You've covered here that
Oh
they
yeah.
need a
Yeah.
hero if you want to be featured in their new
Yeah.
artwork policy. But at the same time, um, you know, this is going to be a monumental impact because they've depreciated the iTunes summary tag, and they want people
I
only
don't think they
use.
ever, I mean, it's been years since they actually used it, haven't they?
I don't know. But a lot of third
Because it's the same
party.
thing as what the description was, right?
Well, it doesn't have to be, and that's where the trick was.
Right.
You
Right.
could have a description that would be much more richer than the description of the episode. So what we're facing is we still have the iTunes summary tag in the feeds, and we still have people that are placing two versions of descriptions
Of the
in
descriptions,
in
right?
the show notes. It's not everyone, but real savvy folks have done that for years because they get a little bit of an edge when it comes to some apps that are still recognizing the summary. So with the Podcast Standards Project talking about this, you're going to start seeing the iTunes summary taken out of RSS feeds.
Mhm.
It's gonna be removed. And
Yeah, I
also
think it should be. I think
yeah,
it should be.
and also they don't want content encoded used either. They just want stuff in the description. So now, this is what you're gonna be faced with, and if you like that marginalized summary, um, or the
The
perception of marginalized summary.
or the shorter version of it, is that what you mean?
Yeah, you're gonna have to understand this is no longer you're no longer supported. And
Yeah.
we've had some people recently said, "Hey, why isn't this working? Why does it look? Why is my description being used here So the general public doesn't under the general podcasting public um, really doesn't know that these changes have happened. So, um,
Yeah.
but some stuff is going to change here soon. Just like iTunes owner, and it's no longer needed. iTunes keyword no longer supported. iTunes order no longer supported. So there's going to be
So
some
I don't think that the summary tag ever supported HTML, did it?
no, it did not.
I didn't think so. Right.
But the challenge then becomes is um, the wrapping of that data, and this is the thing that we deal with on the support side all the time, is the apps have not done a good job in having a unified description. They don't honor all the HTML in the description. That's just simple fact. And what it ends up happening is if someone has a bullet list or if they have, and these are very basic HTML tags, if they
Hmm.
don't support that, then in their description in the app just looks like crap.
Yeah.
Um, and sometimes it just like looks like a run-on sentence. So I think it's a dual thing that the app developers have to get better at supporting rich HTML in descriptions so that their description listings in the apps look better.
Yeah, because I think if you're a podcaster and you're copying the same description that you're putting into the main description field, but you're also copying and pasting the same one into your summary because you don't know any different.
Right.
That's what's gonna. Um, there's no reason to do that.
Yeah.
Plus, if you have HTML in there, it's just
Yep.
gonna look like garbage.
Yep.
If
So
if it ever does get displayed somewhere in some app, yeah,
yeah, and we haven't went and did a comprehensive audit to look at all the apps and see how many of the apps are still
pulling that.
pulling that supporting that
I
tag.
don't
Now
think it's very many. I would be surprised.
I'm sure they will default back to description if it's not there. I'm going to assume. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I would
So,
too. Yeah, I think it's a good move. I
yeah.
think pulling that out was unnecessary,
But
or
or
having
having
it
it.
in there.
Yeah.
Right, it was
Into
unnecessary.
beginning it was unnecessary. But I did
Yeah,
use it to my advantage a few times in being able to have one thing in my RSS
yeah.
feed as the description and the iTunes summary being separate. So, yeah.
I think the idea behind it originally was good because it gives you the opportunity to put a shorter version of your description in
Yeah.
there, a true summary, right, of your episode, and then having the longer version be the full description.
Yeah.
But I just think a lot of people misused it. They just copied the same and put it in both.
Yeah, put the same date in both. So podcast
Yeah.
movement is fast approaching, and obviously they've been announcing a bunch of speakers. I will say that the Podcast Standards Project is going to have a meeting room. A couple of the folks donated some money. We're going to throw some money in for food for meetings, and basically they're going to have a little bit of an agenda, not massive, maybe two or three different events at Podcast Movement. So if you're attending, make sure that you pay attention to the Podcast Standards Project website, and and hopefully James and others will cover it as we get those meetups firmed up. But be a place to tucked away where we'll be able to have even one-on-ones and stuff as well. So um, nice to see. That was uh, uh, basically the folks over at Transistor took the initiative to get the meeting room. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited to see what we can make use of the room. Probably
It'd
be
be great to get a lot of people across the industry to attend, and if there's any kind of structure to this type of
yeah,
thing, or is it just a networking opportunity?
yeah. Well,
Is the question.
baby steps now.
Right. Let's just bring people in the door and
Yeah, and be able to
get
have a
people talking.
yeah,
Right.
and trying to get more of the industry people in to have, and we're not going to limit it to industry. I think it's going to be pretty open to anyone that wants to have some
Yeah.
input.
Well, podcasters need to know about it too.
Yeah.
So it'd be good.
But
Interesting.
the
But
lineup,
yeah.
you've noticed a lot of corporate speakers, huh? I don't think that's changed so much, has it?
No, I wouldn't say that this whole thing is anything too new. Um, hmm, okay. Yeah. The information in this post was not entirely correct. Um, so it's kind of a direction that podcast movement's been moving for a couple of years now. Is it's really becoming more of a corporate event, and we've talked about that a
Yeah,
lot
yeah.
on this show. So it's not really a place that you know startup podcasters go to or anything like that. It's really the larger companies in the space send people there, and I think advertisers hopefully it can be a place where the industry itself can get together and not it's not a content event really anymore. Um,
Although
you
the
know,
stuff I'm going to be doing is content related, so I guess we'll see how many people show up. So,
your particular session, is that
yeah.
what you're
But
referring
it's an
to?
AI session, so, AI is
Well,
uh, uh,
there's always a certain amount of podcasters that will go.
right.
It's just it's probably not the vast majority of the
And definitely
attendees
not
now.
new podcasters either.
Right. New podcasters is probably definitely not going there.
Yeah. So I
So
think this is a watershed moment for podcast movement. Um, I think they're on the cusp of it tipping one way or the other. So we'll see. I'll make a decision at the event if we're going to repeat. And
so
go ahead.
I was just going to mention, is it a tipping point in their mind or a tipping point in everyone else's mind?
Well,
It's
it's a tipping point in my mind as a vendor.
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It used to be you said you have to attend Podcast Movement because it's a flagship event to be there to raise the flag to show that you're still in business. Well,
Yeah.
if the people that you do business with are not at the show,
Yeah.
do I need to be at the show? I've
Yeah.
never gotten ROI out of Podcast Movement from a new customer standpoint. I made relationships and
Right.
had some networks, but nothing that would justify, $15,000 or $20,000 that we'll spend at the event
So was there a time in the past when there was a strong ROI
before COVID.
before COVID?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Back when back when they were getting over 3,000 attendees.
and where there was new podcasters that you could talk to and influence and you know do the sales pitch.
Yeah.
We're going to be primarily focused on our new product, GuestMatch.pro. We're going to be promoting the hell out of it. And we still have a blueberry banner, but we're going to be wearing Guest Match Pro shirts, and so for us that is a potential market for new customers because yes, there's a couple of competitors in the space, but they typically never have a booth. So
Mhm.
we'll see if it helps us.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how many of the podcast hosting platforms actually have a presence or have a booth or something like that at the event too. So keep your eye out for that too.
Yeah, Libsyn's one of the folks that definitely has a private meeting room.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I think I can. Talked about this last week. I have the map.
Oh, of all of the exhibitors?
No, of the people that have meeting rooms.
Oh, I see.
So Art 19, of course, Sounds Prof will have their big lounge. Magellan and Libsyn. They're the only three that I see have meeting rooms. So that's to me is on the floor. They may have a meeting room in the hotel,
Oh yeah. Well, you're probably yeah, there's meeting rooms from Spotify and iHeart, all those that are
not part of the show floor. That didn't pay.
not part of the show floor. Right.
That they didn't pay. I would
So are
assume
they on the show floor though?
Libsyn,
All those
Magellan,
companies?
yeah, they're in the well, wherever the meeting room section is. I don't know if it's
No,
on a
but
different floor or what.
are all those companies having booths as well?
I don't know. I haven't looked at the floor map recently, so
Let's see.
it's probably and I haven't been on the site in a while, so I don't even know if they show the show floor or not and who's exhibiting.
Well, they usually have a list of all of the exhibitors, but that may or not be up yet. I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll see. So Podcast Movement's August 18th through the 21st in
yeah.
Dallas. And it looks like let's see if there's any list of uh, booths.
Their
Not
website's
seeing it.
changed a little bit. I don't see the actual well, there learn more and buy tickets.
I don't see sponsors. I'm sure the sponsors are on here somewhere.
Yeah. Keep scrolling here.
Okay. Okay. View all sponsors and exhibitors. It says
Oh, there you go.
presenting sponsor Lipson Airwave are the presenting sponsors.
And then you look at
Looks like
Adobe
Asha.
Sirius, Amazon Art 19, Odyssey, Asha, Bourbon Barrel. Love that show. FM, CNN Collection, co-host, Consumable, Dystopia, iHeart Magellan, Pay, Podmatch, Podcast Professional Association, Sounds Profitable, SoundStack, Podcast Study, Exhibitors. Let's just look at hosting companies. You've got Blueberry, Libsyn,
Lipson, Podbean,
Podbean,
Red Circle,
Arsis.com, Red Circle. That's it.
Spreaker. There's Spreaker,
Oh, yeah. I really don't consider them a
Simplecast.
host anymore, but
Ooh,
one Spreaker, but they are. I forget that they still have hosts.
they're the
One,
second largest podcast host in the world.
one, two. Yeah, okay. One, two, three, four, five or six podcast hosts. So the the ones that are generally there are there,
Yeah.
but the exhibitor list is only one, two, three, four, five. Let me do this. It's rows of four. One, two, 6, 24, 25 exhibitors. That's horrible. Wow.
Yeah, that's
Wow. One, two, yeah,
that's it.
25 exhibitors. That's it.
That's it.
That's bad. So
Wow.
what that
That's a,
they have a big one
that's a
there.
very short list.
Yeah. Now I'm sure maybe these other folks that are event sponsors will have booths too. And if they do, then that
Yeah.
raises the number to
Yeah, it does.
that raises the number to 1, 2, 4, 5, about 50. So that's a little better, but that's
Well, SoundStack is also in the sponsor list, not in the exhibitor list.
yeah. So they're probably I don't know if they have a booth or not. They have a stage. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's still not a for an industry that's 20 years old. That's a very small number of exhibitors.
Yeah. And I don't see, as far as the presenting sponsors, there isn't any really big companies
Just Libsyn and
besides,
Airwave,
I wouldn't consider Airwave to be a big company.
but they wrote a big check,
Yeah. Yeah, they did.
and the other ones wrote some sort of check.
Right. The event sponsors one,
Yeah,
like Adobe Podcast
yeah, yeah.
and Sirius and Amazon Music Podcast, Art 19.
As an exhibitor, my check was about 5 grand, something around there for to have my exhibit space.
And then
So
the Odyssey Podcasts, Asha, um, CNN co-host Quill. Dystopia, iHeart, which is really Spreaker.
If you're watching your pennies, which we
Yeah.
all are in this time, I can't write these big checks anymore to be a silver or gold or platinum or,
Right.
there's not because, okay, it's your name's up there on a banner, but, oh, it's pretty for a picture and social, but is it giving me true ROI? And I answer my board of directors on these events.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I just this this sponsor list is pretty short, actually.
and maybe an event sponsor could have bought, you know, I mean, the lanyards. They could have wrote a check for $5,000 for the lanyards or whatever the number was.
Well, the other folks that are not showing up in this list, which is interesting, is there's very few people from the advertising industry side of podcasting, um, from the representation companies, or
Well, again,
I, I
have
just don't see their names.
have they done something within the resort that's outside of podcast movement and they didn't get any of that money? Usually the resorts protect that and don't
And I
al
don't see any of the big ad buying brands
yeah.
involved in the event as a sponsor as well. So they could be there just going to
Mhm.
meetings,
Well, I know
which
one
is
person that
probably
goes
what's
there and
going on.
he just books meetings like crazy
Yeah,
before the event and sits at a table and has one-on-ones the entire show.
yeah.
So, anyway, we'll see. We'll see what it's going to be. It's going to be, I'm flying home specifically to go. So,
Hmm.
and then this event in Madrid, it's going to be interesting that I'm going to in first week of October. So, and that'll do it for me for events this year, unless I get
Wow.
invited to go somewhere else. If I'd have been here in
Yeah.
Asia, I probably could have gotten into Radio Days Asia, but I'm just not going to be in. I'm not making a special trip to Malaysia or wherever they're having it
Yeah.
for a couple of day event.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah. The Tom Webster received another CMI Content Marketing Award. So good on Tom for that. Congratulations. I think this
Yeah.
is his second. I think he did.
Yeah, it is. It's the
I think it's his
second one.
second one. So, Tom does a good job in data storytelling. That is for sure. I don't think anyone does it better than him.
Right. Yeah,
And
that's true.
in his I don't even know about this content marketing award, so it's my first exposure to it.
Yeah. Plus, yeah, I can't remember if we talked about last week the announcement from Triton Digital about the AI generated host reads that
No,
they're starting to move towards. They
lovely.
announced a deal with a company called Ecots, or EKOZ and and they're set to deliver AI generated host read ads based on the host's cloned voice.
Hmm.
So this would slide right into the programmatic side.
Yeah,
So,
here it
um,
comes. The
yep.
onslaught. The question. I'd like to hear some of those ads.
Yeah. And there's been some talk about it on, I think it was on LinkedIn, um, about it. I was involved in a thread that was on there too. And it begs the question from a couple different directions. Is the host of the show going to want to have the brands that advertise on their show put words in their mouths
Well, I would
of sorts,
assume the
right?
hosts will have to approve the copy. I can't imagine.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you would think so, right?
You would think so.
But that's going to slow down the speed of approval,
Yeah. I don't want my
which
name, I don't want my voice being associated with certain products and services. So I would be
on your
very
own podcast. See, that's the
right.
thing.
Yeah. Y-
So, and is that going to put the brands in a position where they have to script into the cloned voice a testimonial
Mm.
about their product, right? Um, where's that coming
You know,
from?
so
Is
what
it based?
happens when you get a Chevy commercial and your audience knows that you're a diehard Ford fan, or you're a diehard Tesla driver and a Ford ad comes in your voice?
I don't even know that Ford's buying podcast
Well,
ads
I know,
anymore,
I'm
are
just
they?
that's the example, you know.
Yeah. So,
So,
but yeah, it raises lots of questions, and I heard that mentioned as well about the host has to approve it, and that takes me back to the it's going to cut down the speed of approvals.
but at the same time too, I'm not sure that I think you're cheating your audience. It's a disgenuine, I take pride in talking about GoDaddy on my show.
Right.
I use their products and services,
Yeah.
and I want people to know that. And my audience can text me or send me an email if there is a issue with their GoDaddy account, and I take them right to the top of the food chain over there if there's a problem.
Yeah.
And when you have a direct line to the vice president at GoDaddy, and he's directly in charge of the support team, um, there's nothing better than that. But what happens when my voice is used to promote some product, and I don't maybe gets to the point I don't even know anything about it. It's just like the mattresses. What was the mattress that was big there for a while?
Casper.
Casper. They say that. I'll be honest with you. What a piece of shit. That Casper mattress was, and
Right.
I refused.
Right.
I
Right. Yeah.
refused to run the ad because I couldn't.
Yeah. How
Okay.
many backaches came out of sleeping on that
Right.
mattress? Right. Right. Yeah.
And you heard people, oh, this is the most fantastic. I'm sleeping on this is my daily sleeper. And I'm like, one of
Really?
the best investments you can make as a human being is buying a good mattress.
Right.
This is
Right.
something you do not go cheap on. If you're sleeping
Right.
on a $300 mattress and you have a backache, there is a reason you have a backache on that $300 mattress. Now, some of you have backs of steel and you sleep just fine on a $300 mattress. But I tell you,
Right.
the difference between a $300 mattress and a $3,000 mattress is night and day.
All right. Yeah. It's
The
true.
the mattress I have here, that was one of the very first things when I went to rent this unit was um, I pulled the cover, the mattress cover off to see what brand of mattress it was, and I looked it up because if it was junk, I was going to ask the landlord to change it out. I'm
Yeah.
that serious about it. So I have here equivalent to a very expensive mattress here. So the quality was exceptional. So
Yeah.
so what happens when your voice is used for a Casper ad? I think that I don't know if they're still in business.
Yeah. I don't think they're doing podcast ads anymore, but um, yeah, and it does make you wonder if it has the potential of eroding the high CPMs that traditionally host reads have garnered
Yeah.
because the market gets flooded with ads in your voice that
Mm-hmm. That are not
people don't
genuine.
trust.
Yeah, then you're not trusted. And that could
Yeah,
cause loss of audience, the whole 9 yards. Yeah, it's a slippery, slippery slope. Rob, we are
automation has its challenges. Yeah.
yeah, we're at the top of the hour here. We've made it through and still have stuff on the list
Oh
here.
yeah. Yeah. There's always a lot.
Yeah. Was there anything that was important? Important. Let me look. I don't think.
I think we covered most of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, actually, yeah. Creepy clones is what.
Creepy clowns.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when you have an AI doing your ads for you, that's a creepy clone.
Yeah.
And will YouTube allow it?
Yeah. Well, they're already cloning the host voice
Yeah.
for the content.
Yeah.
So that's their international translation strategy that
Hmm.
they have, right?
Yep.
So
So I
they
hope.
might
Oops. Go ahead.
they might do it. I just think this whole element of um, the audience is really the bigger question. Is it going to work? Is it going to garner CPM,
All right. Well, maybe
or
some
is
of
it
these
going to
creators don't.
erode the CPM?
Maybe
Right.
creators don't care. They just want the money. So it's hard to say.
Yep.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, what's your thoughts? You can very easily give us your commentary, Todd at blueberry.com, at
Yeah.
Geek News on X. I'm at Geek News at geeknews.chat on Mastodon.
Yeah, or just posting the
Oh,
threads
yeah.
of the live streams on that we're going out here and in the podcast apps
Or
too.
at NMS Podcast on X as well. We're there.
Yep,
So,
that's
Rob,
where we.
what's the 411 for you?
RobGreenlee.com is a great way. Two E's on the end, and I can be found on YouTube as well at Rob Greenlee. And you can send me an email, rob.greenlee@gmail.com. Love to hear from you. Just like what Todd said, if you have any ideas or feedback or anything like that, that would be terrific. So we'd love to hear from you. I'm on all the social platforms too.
So, how are you guys liking the 1 hour show? Yeah, especially for Rob, it's 9 p.m. where he's at. So, as I was telling before we started today, I got 5 hours of sleep today, which is a miracle on a show day. So,
It's
anyway,
early for you,
yeah,
right?
it's
Yeah.
early. I'm on the opposite end, but I worked at 3 o'clock in the morning too. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you for being here. We'll see you
Yeah.
next week on the New
Okay.
Media Show. Everyone, take care. Bye bye.
All right. Thanks. Bye.